Hey people, Jesus here. And I just wanted to remind you, the only way into heaven is to become a subscriber to Blunt Trips. Imagine being stuck in eternity watching those other channels. Subscribe, and Jesus will love you even more. But you have to believe. See you soon.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I thought you stood me up for sure.
Oh, no, you're fine.
Okay. I was like, it's the ears. It's probably the ears. She saw the video last night.
No, I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Oh, you can't see?
No, I cannot see you.
Uh-oh.
In the bottom left, there should be a mute button and then a video stop or start video button.
Oh, okay.
Oh, now I can see you.
Okay.
All right.
I
How
thought
you
it was.
doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing? I'm sorry, there's a little delay.
Oh, no, you're fine. I'm good. Thank you for asking.
Thank you for giving me an opportunity to do this interview.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for reaching out. That's cool. I don't have people do that very often, so I'm usually the one asking other people. So it's cool to hear from you. Thank you for that.
I got to ask you straight up. First of all, were you nervous about this interview?
Not really. I'm more excited.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you want, I'll let you start.
Sure. So after you had introduced yourself to me, I know we kind of got started talking about where this interview could lead and what kind of stories you have from life experience and things that you could share that would help people better understand your content and where it comes from. So if you kind of want to start from kind of your experience dealing with very difficult situations. I know you've faced death a few times and you haven't had the easiest life, and I think it's really important when I meet people who don't have the easiest life to show how you can still use that hard those hard times to better yourself and find something you love out of all the hardship. So if you kind of want to talk about how you got to creating and how you got to where you are now, I would love to hear more about that.
All right. Well, first of all, I was middle child of three. But my mom was married by her fifth marriage. I was abandoned by 14. She signed the papers for my sister when she was 12 to get married in Alabama. It was the only state you could. So she actually drove her to Alabama and she got rid of my brother. My mom was not a very responsible parent. So she abandoned all her kids. So by 14, I was learning to do things on my own, mostly like working and learn to take care of myself. Got married early on. I was burned. I had a radiator cap pop off and burn me from my bottom lip all the way down my belly button. Then on the way to the hospital, somebody ran a stop sign and got in an accident. So that was, and it was the middle of the summer. It was like 80 or like 90 something degrees outside. And I was already burning. The guy was unconscious. I didn't even care. I ran as they were pulling him out and I went and laid on the stretcher. I was like, I got to go. I'm burning. Just a bunch of stuff. I was told I had cancer. And then before my first treatment, they said the cancer was gone. It was weird because I was a smoker for a long time. I smoked for 28 years cigarettes. And I did quit. But when they told me I had cancer, I started smoking menthol. I just didn't care anymore. I figured, okay, I'm dying. And I went to my first treatment and they told me that in the x-rays, it showed there was nothing there. That it cleared up. And I was baffled. I've just had I was paralyzed. I had a virus called Guillain-Barré. It hit me I was married before and it hit me on my wedding anniversary and it left me paralyzed. And I originally thought it was a spider bite. I argued with the doctors. My body was tingling one day and stuff. And I started losing feeling. I'd argue and I told them it was a spider bite and they kept saying, no, we believe it's something else. Well, I left the hospital and the next day I couldn't get out of bed. My brother, who was a bodybuilder, luckily was able to pick me up and got me to the hospital. And I was in there for quite a while. I want to say about 3 weeks before I was able to leave. And then I had to learn how to talk, everything. I couldn't move my mouth when I talked. I talked through my teeth. So I have been through a lot. I've had everybody close to me walk away, my kids. live with me, and they didn't like my rules. They had to go to school with me and stuff, so they chose their mom's way, and they ended up not graduating, and they got issues with weight and stuff now because they went their mom's way. So it seems like everybody that didn't want to work hard and do it my way, I watched them fall, or they didn't want to stick with me. Anybody that didn't want to grind hard for it, um, they just want to come along and take what I had earned, they'd stick around. But if I showed them the way, they didn't want nothing to do with it. They want to get away from me. Kids, family, everybody. So I learned, to do everything on my own, basically.
And now you do a lot of content about, crime solving and kind of darker content. So do you think that relates to what you've dealt with in your life at all?
Yes, ma'am. I don't know if you want me to say this, but I am satanic. I usually don't tell a lot of people just because it chases a lot of people away. But I picked up that book when I was 12 years old, and it wasn't what I had thought. It had rules in there, like basically respect people when they're in their place. And if you don't respect them, don't go there. When people disrespect you, give them a warning, basically. And if they don't respect that warning, then you destroy them, whether it be verbally, physically, psychologically. You let into them. It was just rules that I went by, and I realized it wasn't about worshiping anything. It was more about a code of conduct, a big one that I liked, and there was not hurting children. And I was always one, even when my kids were sick, I'd go down the bus stop. I'd be the only parent there to make sure the kids got on the bus. It was just the rules of Satanism that I liked, and people were shocked. And I remember one time when I had cancer, they were looking at me, making sure I wasn't going crazy because I started seeing and hearing things. And they wanted to look into the satanic book to see if maybe that had something to do with it. And it didn't. But when I gave them the book, they had actually came back and told me, the lady that read it, she came back and told me it was nothing that she thought. She finished the book, and it changed her whole way of thinking about Satanism. So I do credit a lot of that to Satanism, my success, because it's the only thing that taught me to get up and go. There wasn't a parent there, not many friends, really. But that book told me over and over, get up and, you are your own Jesus. If you believe in Jesus, you got somebody that's going to, that took the punishment for you. But if you don't believe him, you realize you're going to pay for your mistakes. So that helped a lot. That did help push me. So as far as the dark side, I've always been kind of dark. I was playing with the Ouija boards, young. Just all kinds of stuff. And then I started seeing and hearing things after I was told I had the cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And not so much ghost. It would be like particles it looked like the size of dust, but particles of light floating away. And as I described them, they would tell me, it sounds like people would like stare at each other and say, he's describing what you see a lot in hospice as people are dying. Mm-hmm. They don't know whether it's plasma energy that I'm seeing, but the way I describe it best is really tiny dots. And they look like they're just floating all around. You can see most of the time like floating away from me. Mm-hmm. So the dark side's really never scared me. It's more interested me than anything. I'm sorry if I go ramble on a lot. I do. I do go.
Right, you're fine. You're fine. I'm just interested in also the part of your content that, so it kind of, to me as a viewer, it seems like it all, and now especially knowing some of your backstory, it all kind of fits together. Like your whole energy meshes to, it all makes sense. The fact that you went through all this hard stuff and then you're gravitating toward, more of the unknown. You're really interested in that kind of stuff, and taking things to an uncomfortable level that maybe scares some people. So I think to have that sense of not being censored or filtered and kind of saying whatever you want and telling it like it is, why is it important for you to have that kind of image?
Well, here's the thing. I usually don't use hard profanity when I'm around people. That shocking image, that comes from a radio background. I looked at my competition, I was like, okay, what are they not doing? They're not shocking people. They're not being real. People use profanity. In reality, I learned early on, because I was abandoned. Somebody took me in, my best friend's dad took me in, he let me stay there, and he had taught me to respect women. And one of the things he taught me was that's ignorance when you use profanity. So when I'm with people, I don't use it a lot. It's that shock value. And when I started doing it originally with my channel, I was covering a case that really I got emotional with. It was the burning question. And I started looking into one murder case. And by the time I was done, there was 3. And it involved a lot of racism and things that I didn't like. So I was really emotional. So I busted out with the F word right from the beginning from that video. And people liked it. They're like, wow, this guy's real. He don't care about profanity. So I used it for intro and it took off. But as far as being the shock, using profanity, it is for shock value. It's because I looked at what my competition was doing. They had covered all the graves, or most of the graves I had covered. But they weren't being real. They were worried about what they said and stuff. And there is some words I just won't use. I won't use female body parts. That's just something I've never used. I'm uncomfortable with it. And the biggest word I never ever used, it was the only word when my kids were growing up, was the M word. I told my daughter, all my daughters growing up, I didn't like the profanity, but that was the one word they never used in my house. So the shock value is most of the profanity. I don't use it a lot when I'm in person, especially with women, children, and older people. Now, if there's guys around, sometimes I will, but the F word is just not something I use on a regular basis, actually.
Do you think that using that has drawn more people to the kind of work that you do?
Oh, no, man. In fact, if I can warn you of anything, the reason why I won't use that or smoking on your channel is I may have 17,000 subscribers, but I probably lost that many as well, because I've watched them subscribe and unsubscribe. And I know, and I see where it is. It's because they'll like the video, they'll like the content that I'm covering. They don't like the language. And they'll even tell me, that language, I can't. And we knew that going into this. We knew, okay, when you go uncensored, there's a lot of the viewers, most of my viewers are women. And a lot of them have children around. So, and they watch it during the daytime. So when they open it up and the F word is right there in the first 30 seconds, they're like, oh, then they're shutting it off and they're panicking. But we do that because we don't want those people that are watching children to be watching our content. They need to be up watching their children. My content is more for the people who are taking a lunch break and people who, have free time to be doing it, not the people that are sitting there watching children. So we run them off right off from the front. If you're supposed to be watching children, that's a big reason why we do that. We kind of pick and choose our viewers, and we knew we were going to lose a lot. And like I said, I've probably lost 1,600 within the first 3 days that they did subscribe. So it just comes with the territory. When you want to go uncensored, you limit your audience.
Right. And you never think about changing your own, the way you run things to accommodate others. You think that you would stay true to yourself?
Yeah, for that reason, the biggest reason is because we don't want people watching kids, and that's mostly why people don't like the content. We've talked to people, and they tell us, no, we just can't watch it because our kids are around. Exactly. That's why we put that in the first 30 seconds, because if you're watching your kids, we don't want you watching our program. Right. We rather, when you can watch and hear that content, usually you don't have nothing else going on anyway, so it's not an issue. That is the biggest reason. We won't change. I have limited it down. We're also looking at putting in some other shows. We've added labels even. But for the most part, no, we want to run the people off that are supposed to be watching children, because that's usually the ones that have an issue with that profanity, because there are children around. They can't sit around and listen to our show and watch children. They're mad about it, but we're okay. We're okay with them being mad because we're getting them up to watch their children.
Right. That makes sense. So talk to me a little bit more about your radio background. I'm interested in how you still touch on that with what you do now.
I started in radio, actually. It was internet radio. It was long before Pandora and iHeart. I did a station. I forget who it was through, but my station was actually Power Planet Radio. And I did a lot of comedy, a lot of profanity, interviews. On my I do have pictures and stuff. It was actually back when MySpace was still big. That's how long ago it was. So yeah, I got to meet a lot of comedians. There was a show where they were doing a competitor with comedians. I got to meet all of them. America's Top Comedian or something like that. I forget what it was. I got to meet Alonzo Bowden, and I got to meet a lot of my idols as well. Megadeth. I got to meet Nick speak to Nick Menza, not meet, speak to him via internet just before he passed, and he was my favorite drummer growing up. So I got to meet a lot of cool people doing radio. It gave me a little bit of this experience, but it's a whole different ball game. People don't understand. They're like, oh yeah, you're used to it. I'm like, no, when you got that camera in front of you, people freeze. I got a big rig, and when I go out to events, I can turn my camera to people and they'll be getting pictures. Their mom will be standing in front taking pictures, and I'll stand behind their mom with my camera, and you'll see them just freeze. They act like they see a gun, and people don't understand. No, it's not the same as radio. It's a totally different ball game. Totally different ball game when people can see you.
Right. Yes. And when you go out, first of all, this is kind of a double question. My first part would be, how do you come up with the stories that you're going to cover? And then the second one would be, when you go out to shoot something, what are you trying to find out? Like, what questions are you seeking to answer?
When I go, well, first of all, to find them, I picked Denver for a reason. We will never run out of crime here. Never run out of crime in Denver. In fact, growing up, some of the cases I was most interested in are within 1 hour of here. You can look at Chris Watts, it's like 30 minutes. John Bonet Ramsey growing, when I was younger, I was into that case. That's within 40 minutes. Just, there's so many cases. I 3 miles from the Batman shooting. I actually covered that already.
Wow.
And actually, there was another one just down the street that I just covered the other day, the Elijah McClain. I didn't realize that he was less than 1 mile from me where he was killed until I actually got to that case. I was like, wow, I literally walked to that thing to show people the distance that he got to walk on his last walk. So there's just I'm never going to run out of crime, but I don't want to stick with crime forever. So I started looking into events. It was ironic that car show happened at the graveyard because I got a good relationship with the cemeteries around here, being out there so much. So they did a car show, and I was like, okay, this is kind of a breakthrough, because I tried the zoo, people weren't into it, my audience, and I tried Botanic Gardens, people just weren't into it. So I'm trying to find stuff that people in, and here comes Halloween right around. So we just locked in something for a haunted field, an outdoor haunted event, the largest one in Colorado. So I'm really looking forward to that. That should draw some people in. And that's one of the things I'm trying to do, is get more towards the events and not so much in the cemetery all the time.
Yeah, that makes sense. So have you been able to connect with people who respond positively to what you're doing?
Oh yeah, when I'm out there, like events, we give away stickers, t-shirts. People love free stuff. When you give them free stuff, they're your best friend. And we've seen some come. We've even gotten a little criticism, and I read my criticism. A lot of people delete it and stuff. If something bothers somebody, if I agree with them, I'll make changes. If not, I'll leave it there so people can see. And if other people agree, they'll like it. I won't run from my critics. They help you out. But as far as meeting people and stuff, people have always been cool when I've gone to the few events so far. They always want to get in front of the camera. I do some martial arts events. My daughter does martial arts, so I'm already cool with the school that I actually film all their events. And everybody wants to jump in front of that camera and ask them when they're going to be on video so they can see it. So people are really welcoming. The YouTubers are harder to get to work with. I was really happy that you worked me. I do want to say thank you once again for that. We had 2 big names. I'm not going to drop their names, but both of them kind of burned me on it. So, and they were guys. So I'm like, look, the girl's not afraid at all. The men are running. So that was really cool. I appreciate you working with me on that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, no problem at all. I think it is always interesting because I've seen a lot of different kind of mystery type of content on YouTube and kind of conspiracy type of stuff. What do you think makes your approach to it unique?
I think it's because I've seen death. It's been described to me is, as I say, sixth sense. I can see things like a full picture, where if somebody tells you a sentence, you'll see it one way, but I hear it and see it as a totally different way, as a warning, as a sign, as things to look out for. And I'm trying to think of an example, in my mind's going blank, but I don't hear things like normal people. I don't see things like normal people. Whereas, like taps, for instance, you could be asking a question, my answer will be about to be yes, but I could hear a tap off in the distance or a dog bark, and I'll get my answer from things like that. I pay attention to my surroundings more than I do my people, and I get a lot of my answers that way, whereas people don't know. They do mislead. But you can pay attention to your surroundings, and I've paid attention, and it's paid off for me every time. And that's how it's gotten me where I have. I didn't plan on coming to Colorado. We left with $400 in our pocket from Michigan and nowhere to go. Slept inside of a truck for the first couple of weeks. And from there, I started out at $19 an hour, and then all the way up to 32. And as season rolls around, it gets up into $60 an hour. And all I'm doing is delivering food during busy hours. I can do 4 hours a day and make more in one day than most people do in 2 days. And it's easy, and it gives me the ability to be able to work this channel when I want, to see my daughter. But I work for two different companies, and that's how I do it. You know, when one stops, I pick up on the other. So if my value drops anything below 32, I clock out.
Yeah. Yes. And I think it's also interesting how you, so how you are you seem to have a personal interest in these stories. So do you feel that when you go out to these places, you're gaining some type of closure almost from like what you've been through? Do you feel like it's changing your perspective on life at all?
A lot of times when I go out to these cases, I don't know what I'm going to find. I'm shown things, and I credit that to my gift. Like I said, I don't see ghosts running around, but I'll see signs that point me. There's a guy right now that I have located two graves that did not want to be found. There is no records of them, but I located them through signs. One of them is a guy that's trying to hide from history. He burned a kid at the stake, who he falsely accused of raping his daughter. And it's down in history, and they're actually trying to have it erased from history. It was the Preston Porter case. And the father of the girl that was raped, his name was Robert Frost. His whole family is unmarked. And through finding his daughter, I ended up with one episode. By the time I was done, it was 3. But with that gift, I found out where the father was, and this guy did not want to be found. Also, a porn star, Linda Lovelace. She did not want her grave found. I was able to find her. I just pick up on signs and things that point me to stuff. I just call it a gift, and that's what I sum it up to.
Yeah. Well, do you ever face people that, so when I would say everybody is going to have critics. So when people come at you and say that you're fake, or, it's if they're demeaning what you're doing, how do you respond to that sort of thing?
I'm gonna be honest with you. This is the first time I've ever talked about it with somebody that I wasn't there to change their life. The only people that really know about this gift that I have are the people that I've met after I developed this gift, that I was kind of shown to go to change their lives. There was one girl whose boyfriend committed suicide. She was abandoned from the day she was born. And I told this girl things that she had to do in her life. She changed her life. She was told she would never have kids. At the age of 37, when she made the changes in her life, she had her first kid. So, and it's only people that know about this gift. Not only did I help them change their lives, I showed them the gift so that they were able to carry this gift on. It's not something that, I credit to when I got cancer, I learned it, but it's not something only I have. Everybody has it. It's the ability to pay attention to things around you, taps, signs, flashes, listen to people, and then don't take what they say for granted, just what they mean. Listen to it and think of it, open your mind that it could mean something else. And I'm really trying to think of an example, and I will send you one in an email so to give you a better idea when I come up with one. But when people say things, again, I don't see it like or hear it like they mean it. I'll hear it different, and I'll pick up something off of it and be like, wow, okay, that just gave me a clue to something I need to know on something I'm working on. So
would you say that because of how close to death you were, you pay attention to things now that you didn't pay attention to before?
Absolutely. I developed it because of that gift. I became sensitive to sounds around me, flash around me, touches, wind. It was because of that I picked up this gift. Before that, I thought I had something. I always knew I was different, in the spirits or the dark side, if you would. But after I had this cancer and started seeing things different, I realized to tap in more to my senses, to pay attention more around me. I learned to start listening to people more. I wasn't a listener. In my marriage, I did not listen to my wife, won't lie. If you ask her to this day what was wrong, he didn't listen. No, I was busy. I was always on the grind. But I learned to listen to people, but not listen to it as they mean it. Listen to it and then take it in and think about it, because it could mean something different than what they're meaning. So, and as far as people criticize me again, I really don't let a lot of people know about that gift. Again, I haven't even talked about it to anybody since I've left Florida, which is in 2014. Because I really haven't worked with anybody that had to change their life. I've been changing my life since then, but I see why I'm doing better in life. It's because I made changes in others. People think that you don't get rewarded, and I'm like, it's not always money. I was making $8.20 in Florida back in 2014. And to this day in Florida, you can't make $9 an hour. I mean, unless you got a degree in something. But you have to make moves in your life. I went to Michigan. I started growing marijuana for a few years. I learned how to do it professionally. And then from there, after I got done with, I worked with, I don't know if you listen to Waka Flocka, but his blunt roller actually gave me my first pound of marijuana to quit smoking cigarettes. And he's a friend of mine to this day. He watches, he's a subscriber to my channel. But through that, I picked up working 17, 18-hour days, and it didn't really pay a lot. It didn't pay a lot. People think, oh, you make a fortune growing marijuana. No, you don't. Not when you're up at 5 in the morning and you're turning off the lights at 10 at night. It's not a lot. Right. But and then I made moves after I learned that. I didn't just stick with that. It's once I learned to trade, I moved on to something else. So that's why I'm doing YouTube these days.
Yeah. So what are you moving on to now? What's your next project that you're working on?
I'm really looking forward to the Halloween one. That's going to be a crossover for me to do events. And this one here, you don't understand how much you helped me. I was really looking to do interviews. I did one, but I knew the guy. I needed to do something with somebody I didn't know to take me out of my game. And when they told me you are a journalist, I jumped over. I was in a panic. I was like, you guys, I'm going to kill you, man. Why would you do that to me? They picked a professional for my first one. But I really do appreciate it again. And man, this one has been cool. It's been a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Yeah. I was nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I was nervous. When they told nervous. I had heard references that your channel is a lot like Oprah in your content. And when, man, I was hearing this, they were psyching me out.
No, well, that's a very kind thing to say. I would not put myself near that level, but I do appreciate it. I think, it's always good to support other creators. I think it's awesome when people can collaborate, because I think we kind of live in a day and age where people are almost trying to compete all the time, that you don't see many moments where people are just mutually, sharing an experience or sharing each other's voices. So yeah, it's my pleasure.
How did you come up with a channel, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh yeah, so funny enough, as this quarantine began, so my school shut down and everything was shutting down at the very beginning, and I'm in journalism school, and I was just kind of getting these really cool experiences where I was going to a lot of events and talking to a lot of cool people. And then the world kind of shut down, and I was like, all right, well, I really liked doing that. How can I keep doing that? And so I downloaded, and it didn't start, actually, funny enough, didn't start out with an idea for a channel. It started out with me before I questioned how I was going to keep doing interviews. Out of boredom, I just downloaded the TikTok app on my phone, and everyone had already had it way before me. So I was late to the game, but I downloaded it anyways. And I started, after you have it for a little bit, you get past all the kind of like trending stuff, and you start getting more stuff that's geared more toward, whatever you're probably searching on your phone that they're looking at. But so I started coming across some, and I didn't realize the algorithm worked that way. So when I would come across people sharing the crazy, like, you only have such a short time. So they would share a super short video about like this crazy experience that happened to them. And then you would click on their video or their channel, and you would see that they have like a part 15 of whatever their story was, like a 15 part of how did I don't know, how did I beat the stock market and, win this or whatever. And some of the stories are like that, or some of them would be like, I, had this really rare medical condition, and you have such a short time to show that you get so intrigued and you want to know more. So the more I was liking those type of videos, the more I was getting them on my feed. And it crossed my mind that I could try to interview those people, and I really didn't think anyone was going to answer me. So I was kind of like, I was like, I wonder if, I can't even remember who the very first person that I reached out to was. I think I started the channel by uploading a couple old videos that were not from TikTok, and then I realized, I was like, I wonder if this person would answer me, and I wonder if we could interview each other like on Zoom, since that's how all my classes were going and everyone was doing Zoom. And I was like, and they were in all different parts of the country. So I just would reach out, I would go into their account, and usually they have, this is at least how I do it, because I think I very first tried to reach out on TikTok itself, and I think it's so busy that people don't check their messages on there.
Yeah.
So I would try to, usually in their little bios, they'll have like their Instagram or their website if they have one, or other social medias. So I would reach out to them on other social medias and just say, this is me, I'm a journalism student, and I saw this TikTok that you made. It was really interesting. Would you want to do an interview? I just started a channel and all this stuff. And I would say, and I still to this day reach out to a lot of people and maybe get 50% response, which is fine.
You're doing better than me.
But
you're doing way better than me. So,
but it's like, I was really, really excited that people were agreeing. Anyone was agreeing. I was like, oh my gosh, they want to talk to me. That's so awesome. I didn't think anybody would. So it kind of started that way. And I've continued to reach out that way. And, some people will say, oh, I don't think so. Some people will say no. Some people just won't answer. But plenty of people are happy to talk about their stories. And I think it's really awesome to have the technology that we have to so easily talk to someone and put it out there so quickly. Because, I was kind of, and there's pros and cons on the journalism side, because I was in a phase of my learning where it was going out and shooting and talking to the people in person, and I wasn't on it. I was asking them questions, but you couldn't see me.
Yeah.
And which I kind of liked better, but you couldn't see me, and you would have a partner with you that would help you shoot while you were asking them questions or stuff like that. And then you would go back to the lab, and you'd have to spend however long editing it. And usually, since they were for assignments, there was a longer period of time that you had to edit all your stuff exactly the way you wanted it to look, and kind of put a whole news package together. And it looked really nice, and it looked professional, and it was usually, even though you went out and shot a lot, your video only ended up being like 2 minutes long for like a whole day of shooting. And so I was kind of getting used to that format. And so this has been a really good way to get this stuff out right away. Like I'm literally I screen record it, and then I put the whole thing there, whether that's, I would say, depending on how long I talk, that can be good or bad for the audience, because people don't usually want to listen that long. But I kind of transitioned from very much formatting and editing a package of news to, let me do an interview. I'm not going to edit any of it. It's going to go where it's going to go, and then it's going to go out there, and people can listen to it if they want to. So that's kind of where it went for me.
Yeah, you do have some amazing content. Are you on the 40-minute time limit on this?
I don't think so. Nothing's come up.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because I did have a couple more questions for you.
Yeah, sure.
I do want to ask you something. One, I didn't email you, but do you have anybody on YouTube that you do watch? Who's your people that you watch on YouTube?
I follow a lot of, I'll keep up with like the Jimmy Fallon videos and the Jimmy Kimmel videos. Okay. I'm not a huge YouTube watcher. It's funny because I post a lot on there, but I don't sit there and watch it all. I mainly go on there I'll go on there. I usually use it as just like an entertainment, like a comic relief type of thing. So most of the stuff I look at isn't super serious.
Yeah.
So yeah, I follow, different makeup artists, different, cooking channels, stuff like that. So
Tell me you don't watch Bailey.
Okay.
All right. Everybody watches Bailey.
No. No,
Um,
I'm not super into it, but always new stuff to find. So
I didn't email you this question. If you don't want to answer it, you don't have to. But was there ever an interview you did that you didn't release because it just made you uncomfortable, or you just want?
mm-mm.
No,
The
you were happy
only
with everyone.
time, the only time, and I didn't delete it, but I still kick myself for it so hard. And it was a really good interview and it meant a lot to me. And it just didn't record. Like after it finished, I realized that it didn't record at all. So we did all this talking, and so I keep looking up here at the top of my screen, making sure.
I just realized I wasn't recording. I will need a copy of this if you don't mind.
Yes. So I still saying that I am. So I still get paranoid about that. But no, I don't. I've never scrapped anything.
What's your favorite aspect of what you do?
I really love learning people's stories that are different than mine, because I don't get a lot of value personally, and even with my friendships, talking a lot with people that are exactly like me, because it doesn't really go anywhere.
Uh-huh.
But when I get to talk to people and they have totally different experience, a totally different viewpoint on issues, it's a good opportunity to get perspective on life and think about things maybe differently than you did going into it. And I hope that by sharing those conversations, other people might be able to do the same thing.
Yeah, I do. I only have one more question for you. What was your favorite interview? What was your favorite?
Well, I have a special place for all of them. I think I do respect anyone who is willing to talk to me, especially if it's something sensitive, because I know that that's hard.
It's hard to get interviews.
Yeah, there's still one that is just very special to me. And recently I reposted it the other day because it was the anniversary of 9/11. And it was it's funny because it was one of my first ones, one of my very early videos that I found on TikTok. This woman who survived 9/11 and was in the North Tower and made it out and shared with me the details of how her day went that day, from, the people she interacted with and how she felt and what she was being told by officers, and what her surroundings looked like, kind of like you pick up on your surroundings. She was able to really describe, especially if it's something difficult, you're just more aware of everything, you remember everything more. So she recounted, I was very thankful that she was willing to talk about it. I figured she was willing to talk about it because she put it on TikTok. That's another thing about the interviews. If you're putting it out online, you're probably going to want to talk about it anyway, or else you wouldn't have put it online.
Yeah.
So it's kind of easier than if I'm in person with someone saying, hey, would you mind doing an interview with me? The likelihood that they're going to say no is a lot higher, because they're not they're not talking about themselves already. So I was very grateful that she wanted to really dig deeper into it. And the reason that one is really special is because a lot of people responded to it in the comments, sharing their own experiences. And it's one of those subjects where no matter who you are or what you believe, everyone has a memory of that time. So to hear all of those stories from people meant so much to me, that many people could connect to her.
I looked at your videos. I know I said that was the last question, but I got one
You're
more.
fine.
I looked at your videos and I didn't see it. Have you ever thought about doing a follow-up with any of your guests?
I would consider that. I haven't done that yet, but that would be interesting.
I actually did follow up with mine. They did better than the originals, just so you know. So, but I mean, not guests, but on my topic. So I don't know how it will work with interviews, but I wasn't sure.
You mean
like I went back to graves when I found out more information on the subject after I thought I was done with it, and went back, and it seemed like part 2 of it would do better. Also, I want to let you know on that part 2, there is a reason people do that. And if you ever watch YouTube videos, it's to make people keep coming back.
Right.
They do it for that. Oh, so you already know.
Yeah. No, I get it. It keeps me coming back. Yeah, I think I also want to make sure, I have noticed, because I wouldn't call these follow-ups, but I've noticed with certain subject matters, like, for example, any, and this is another thing that means a lot to me, is any sort of mental health issue or drug issues, usually, or addiction issues. Those people I've found just on these interviews and just meeting them in person, especially if they're recovering, really like to talk about it and really like to bring awareness to it. So that's a population of people that I think are very willing to share versus, and it would be a very easy follow-up. And I've connected with a lot of people where, and I would say the same for domestic violence survivors too. They really like to share. And I think that's wonderful. But you have to, I try to keep my content varied. So, and I would be interested actually to hear your advice on this, because your content is very concentrated. You know what I mean? It's very thematic. You know what I mean?
Yes,
mine kind of isn't. So what do you think the benefits are of keeping the same theme?
I've heard both. Now I talked to Harmon from Infamous Crime Scenes. He does pretty well. I actually have an issue with him right now because he kind of burned me on a deal, but I talked to him and his numbers are dropping right now. He was normally getting around 18,000 views a day. I just looked at his recent views and he's getting about 11,000 a week. And I told him, man, you got to change. Believe me, I don't know about YouTube, but I have worked in promotion and I have worked in radio. I know if you stick to the same thing, people are not going to watch it all the time, especially when you're following Lamont and I'm following you and we're all following each other covering the same graves. We're just telling a story a little different. I can go both ways. I'm doing really well right now. My numbers are skyrocketing while I'm watching his fall. And his advice to me was stick to one thing. He tried doing more than one. It didn't work for him. But I looked at his content, what he was covering before, and it was almost in the same genre. He was covering abandoned places. Now he's covering cemeteries. So it didn't really change a lot. He's still kind of in that same niche, if you will. So I'm doing well with it. When I bounce from like the car shows and I do the karate, my karate one went from 0 views to 15,000 views in just over 2.5 weeks. And because of that, now I'm invited back to do all kinds of seminars and stuff at that karate. They didn't think I got more views on that one video than that school has on all their videos combined. And they've been posting videos for 8 years. So I do well. I think it depends on how you present it. You present stuff amazing. I'm baffled why your views are so little, but then I talk to you and I get it. I spend a fortune in advertising. That's why my views are high. I was paying Google between $400 and $700 a month. And that's why I say I lost a lot of viewers because of my content, but I pay for that. I make good money and this is my hobby. That's what I spend it on. But I was shocked to see you didn't have views. But then when you told me you didn't advertise, I'm like, that's a big part of it, because if your channel was out there, you'd blow mine away. I seen you pull in 800 something subscribers in 2 weeks. And I was originally doing this interview to promote your channel. I'm like, by the time I'm done, I'm going to need her to promote me. No, but your content is amazing. I was just shocked that you're not getting the views. But now I understand why. And it is expensive to get your channel out there. People don't understand. They don't understand how expensive it is. You could be the best content creator there is. If you're not paying to advertise, Google's not doing it for you for free. They won't. So your word just don't get out. And that's one of the reasons why, one of the things I'm trying to do content creators, now that I made it past that 1,000, I pay my advertising. I'm like, well, since I pay my advertising anyways, I can go ahead and advertise for other people if they're willing to talk to me in an interview. So it's a fair trade. So in return, hopefully, I hope I get you some subscribes, but you don't look like you need me. I was like, damn, 800 subs, man. Jesus. I was watching that every day. And I got nervous. I was like, man, at the end of the day, this girl's going to make me look autistic.
No. I mean, it's not. I think yes, I do agree. Advertising is very important. I think aside from putting my content on my social medias and promoting it that way, I do, it's hard to just, you don't want to get caught in the trap of paying for robots to watch your videos.
Yes, you're right. And that's why I don't want to say too much, because there's people that don't know the backside of YouTube. But that's why I wanted to warn you. I was like, if you went that one route that we had talked about, you better get used to it every day. Because I talked to people. I actually worked a case on that I haven't released yet with Fiverr. We received death threats on it. Pictures of, it was weird because it took a picture from a video. Now I'm very self-conscious. We actually have security when we go out to locations. because of the content we do. A lot of times there are unsolved crimes, and there's people in this area that are still out on the streets. With that said, we had somebody send a picture once of my daughter's mother's car. Now, I'm not even with her, but I used her car that day because she needed mine to take my daughter to karate, and hers wasn't cleaned out. So I used her car, and normally I'm subconscious about it, but she was selling the car anyway, so I didn't worry about keeping the camera off it. This person, when I was investigating, it was actually Fiverr. It involved Fiverr and a couple other big companies. When I was looking into it, they sent me pictures, or kept sending me messages, check your Facebook, check your Facebook. And when I looked, there was pictures of my daughter's mother's car. And I'm laughing, I'm like, I put that out there. We have security that looks over this video before it gets released all the time to make sure there's nothing revealing. Because we have members that don't want to be revealed. They have jobs and stuff. They don't want to be out there. But we have received threats, and we're currently receiving threats from another case that's unsolved from a missing woman here in Colorado. We've received threats. We've everything from lawsuits to pulling down the video, or our people will come get you, just all kinds of stuff. We hit on some touchy subjects. The one, the Terry, I believe her, I forget her last name, but she's missing right now. She just passed the anniversary of her missing date like last week. And I've been in contact with the family, but we're getting all kinds of threats that we have had to turn over to authorities, actually, from out of state, from in New Jersey, martial arts schools from other, that this guy was involved with. That we suspect, and we release the information. So it's a dangerous game, and it does cost a lot of money. I would stay where you're at as far as content. You're doing well, and if you're not receiving threats, then people are liking your stuff, you're right where you need to be. You're doing amazing with it. Why are you looking to do something else?
No, I was just curious. I think, it's hard to, just in my career, it's also hard. It's hard because I don't want to paint that I have some type of affiliation, you know what I mean? Or I'm too pushy on one certain topic, because I think that's going to make me seem biased for reporting on anything else. So I really do make an effort, regardless of my beliefs, to stay out of it and not promote any, you know what I mean? Not like promote things. So I just wondered, and even in my world of journalism, people say you shouldn't focus on something because you're not focused enough on one thing. You have too many different things that, you know what I mean? Your name isn't directly associated with one thing. So that can be hard to build a brand based off of that, I guess.
Yeah, you picked some good topics. I would stay right where you're at. You're doing well, especially if people are giving you interviews. I'm having trouble. I had my first one with somebody I knew for years, a recovering drug addict, and they're always willing to talk, like you said. Especially he was a religious person, so he wanted to promote his Jesus. I'm like, if that's what it takes to get your interview, go ahead and promote your religion. I have people from Russia and Pakistan that subscribe. I got people from actually other countries because of the content I do. And I'm like, I really don't want to promote any one religion, because I know I have Muslims that watch this for sure. They've commented on my stuff about religious topics. So I try not to stick with any one religion. That's why I usually don't even bring up my satanic beliefs. So but you stick where you're at. You're doing amazing. I do have to cut this one short here. I do have to go get my daughter.
You're good. You're good. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you for having me. And if you don't mind, I will need a copy of this. If you're going to do it in its entirety, though, I can actually screen copy it as long as I got your permission.
Oh, sure. That's fine.
Okay. I just don't want to take anybody's content without permission.
No, that's okay. You can copy whatever you need. If you need me to send you it, I can do that as well.
All right. Also, if you ever need a good recovering drug addict, I do have somebody. I'll give you a name off screen if you ever need an interview and you're running short on content. I know somebody that would be perfect for your show.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much. It was great to meet you.
Hey, you too. You stay cool.
All right. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.